So you're headed back to training. Are you ready for the things that you probably haven't done since the last time? Let's get up to speed with this great piece from our very own Neil Singer. Ready for Recurrent 2.0. Neil?
I'm here in the Mustang simulator at Flight Safety Textron Aviation Training to look at a few more of the maneuvers you might experience during your next Recurrent.
Not available.
So we've clearly lost our GPS. The synthetic vision has failed. We've lost our nav source. It's showing dead reckoning. The autopilot doesn't know what to do. This is one reason why it's great to make sure you're always flying with your heading bugs synced up. Just one button push to take us back to roughly the heading that was taking us directly to the VOR. So now our aviating part is done. We want to do some navigation here. If our flight plan is pulled up, we can highlight the VOR to which we were navigating. That will show us the frequency. We can either tune that in manually, or we can move the cursor down to it, hit enter, and then select if we want to put that, for example, in the nav1 active field. Now, if I switch my CDI to green needles, I've got the correct station in. Next job is to get the proper course. Old-fashioned way, we twist our CDI until we have a 2 indication and the needle is centered. Good news is Garmin makes this a little quicker for us. If we just push this course knob straight in, it's going to auto slew to the correct course that will take us to the station. So now with the correct station tuned, green needles, needle is centered, we can reselect nav. We expect to see VOR as our active lateral mode. We confirm our autopilot's still engaged, and in the other vertical mode we want. Last piece of information we might like to get here is to display our DME distance. If there is a DME associated with the VOR, then we will see our slant range distance to the VOR displayed right here, as long as we don't have the DME on hold. If the DME is on hold, then we need to go into our DME options here, or in this case, the DME was left on nav 2. We want to put that on nav 1. So that the DME will show us, again, our slant line distance to the station we're now navigating towards. So if we find ourselves in a nose-high unusual attitude, we don't want to simply push the yoke in with wings level. We want to induce a bank, good 45, 60 degree bank, let the plane come down towards the horizon in that bank. If our speed is still low, we might even consider going a little bit below the horizon before we start to pull out, because as we reload the airplane, we do risk a stall if we let the airspeed get down very low, even with the throttles all the way up. Once our airspeed's back in a healthy range, then we can resume normal straight and level flight. In a nose-low unusual attitude, before we start to bring our pitch up, we want to level the wings so as not to put extra load on the airplane. We've extended our speed brakes. It's hard to tell in the sim, but we're trying to pull in a coordinated, maybe 2G pull out. We don't want to overstress the airplane, but we also don't want to overspeed the airplane. As we approach zero pitch point, throttle and speed brakes then can go as required to maintain straight and level flight. Okay, we're here about 4 miles outside the final approach fix. We're slowing to our target speed of ref plus 20 with our gear down and our flaps in the takeoff approach position, which is how we'll be maneuvering until landing is assured. We're in nav mode. It's real important to remember that we don't want to be in approach mode, because in that case, the autopilot's just going to follow the glide slope down. There won't be any alts armed. It won't be looking at our altitude selector. And of course, we need to level off at MDA and maneuver at MDA on the autopilot for some period of time. So we would not want to use approach mode. Every circling approach is flown as a non-precision approach.
510 Foxtrot Sierra, contact tower 118.3.
Tower 18.3, 510 Foxtrot Sierra. Memphis Tower, citation 510 Foxtrot Sierra, outside Claiborne. So as we approach the final approach fix, we're making sure our altitude is set to our circling MDA. We're trying to keep our speed in that plus 20 range. We can set our heading bug now to a heading we think is going to work for our initial turn off of the circle. And now we're just watching our distance count down to Claiborne. Okay, approaching the final approach fix. We're going to go to vertical speed mode. And normally on a non-precision approach, we might select a 500-600 foot per minute descent that's going to give us a continuous descent on final, mimicking a 3-degree glide path. But here with a circle, we want to use a little bit more aggressive descent rate, still within stabilized approach criteria, so that we can get down to our MDA sooner. That's going to give us more time to start visually looking for the airport, get our thrust set, get our altitude selector reset for the missed approach, and just be thinking about the geometry of the circling maneuver we're going to do here. As we're coming down, we're confirming our MFD is set so that we have a 2.5 nautical mile range ring. With Category C circling minimums, expanded circling, we're going to have 2.7 nautical miles or greater. So as long as we can keep part of the airport inside this circle, that means we are going to be safe maneuvering at MDA. We're approaching our minimums, holding our speed at VREF plus 20. Always fly the plane first, then navigate, then communicate. As soon as part of the airport enters this circle, we know we're in our maneuvering area. We've already been cleared for the approach and cleared to circle. We can go to our heading mode right now. Tower didn't answer our earlier call, so we'll give them another call. Memphis Tower, citation 510 Foxtrot Sierra is circling to land 18 right.
510 Foxtrot Sierra, clear to land runway 18 right.
Clear to land 18 right, 510 Foxtrot Sierra. We've reset our altitude for the missed approach altitude. And now, again, as long as we're within 2.7 miles of some piece of a runway at our MDA, we are protected, but of course we do want to always maintain visual contact with the airport. So we're really focusing our attention in 3 parts. We're looking outside, we're checking our PFD parameters, and we're checking our spacing on the MFD. We've got our 60-second track vector displayed. We have our extended center lines to our landing runways displayed. This is all going to help us calculate where and when to make our turns. Remembering that most pilots are more likely to overshoot final and to end up a little bit high, we want to do everything we can to avoid that situation. So we're going to make sure we give ourselves plenty of time, plenty of space to make that turn to final, and we're going to make sure we don't wait too long to start descending for the runway after we make the decision to leave MDA. When we feel like landing is assured, typically around the same time we click off the autopilot, we can select our landing flaps. We do want to be aware, though, that the selection of landing flaps sometimes will cause the airplane to balloon, and if we select landing flaps immediately after clicking off the autopilot, we might find that instead of starting a descent, we end up just flying level. So I've got my landing runway in sight. When I feel like it's the appropriate time to start the turn, I'm just going to spin the heading bug all the way around to my landing runway heading. Now, if I see my radius of my turn is showing that I don't really need that much turn, I can manually shallow it out, but I'm going to leave the heading bug there for reference. I'm going to make the decision to leave MDA, select my landing flaps, and again, my autopilot's off, but I'm going to set my flight director up for a 500 foot per minute descent. This is just going to give me a cue so that I don't have that tendency to let the flaps balloon me up, end up real high. A good circling approach, especially when we've got this expanded circling area, should feel really relaxed. There's plenty of time to make the maneuver. There's plenty of time to make the turn so that we don't end up with a real rushed turn onto final, trying to re-intercept from the other side. We don't end up real high and fast trying to lose height and airspeed at the same time. As we're wings level on final, we can transition from VREF plus 10 with the landing flaps down to VREF. And from this point on, it's a more or less normal approach and landing. We've set up our circle in a way that we had plenty of time to be stabilized as we're on short final at VREF and at more or less a nominal 3-degree angle that we're judging visually and with the help of the synthetic vision.
These tips make simulator training even more beneficial. For more safety information, check out our free material at citationjetpilots.com. Click on the Safety tab. Fly safe, and we'll see you next time.